You know, lately I've been thinking, and I think exactly what Disney needs to do to save Star Wars is make a movie about an uncharismatic silver guy played by Pedro Pascal chasing around a green Muppet for 2 hours. Hi y'all, SnarkyJay cosplay here. So unless you've been living under a rock, you know that recently we got the first trailer to Disney's upcoming film, the new Star Wars movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which basically could have been 3 episodes and another season of that bullshit, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. So it's actually the first Star Wars movie to hit theaters in a few years. The last time we sat down and saw that opening crawl and heard the theme to watch a Star Wars movie on the big screen was all the way back in 2019 with The Last Jedi, and we all know how well that turned out for all of us, right? So admittedly, it's been a minute since we've seen a Star Wars movie on the big screen, and honestly, it makes sense for Disney, that is currently floundering with its live-action remakes, with its own properties, all the controversies that they've been dealing with, that to come back with Star Wars in theaters for the first time in 6 years, they want to do something heavy-hitting. They want to do something dramatic. They want to do something the fans asked for. Sorry, that's actually not what they're doing. It's The Mandalorian and Grogu. And look, this movie is gonna make like $17 billion fucking dollars. And that's why they're doing this, because they're not stupid. But is this movie gonna be good? Probably fucking not. Did anybody over the age of like 12 ask for this? No. Was the last season of this show even worth watching? No. Do I still care about either of these characters? One of which I was incredibly attracted to because I have a thing for helmets and I loved Pedro Pascal a few years ago, and the other of which I wanted to adopt and put a bonnet on. Do they still matter to me? No. Should I keep asking myself questions and then answering them in the same unenthusiastic way? No. Alright, I'm done with that bit, but you get my point here, right? So with this trailer, Disney announced that The Mandalorian and Grogu will be riding into theaters May 22nd, 2026, which is less than a year away from now. And I think that this is Disney's big bet that Star Wars still sells in a movie format, and for them to do it with The Mandalorian and Grogu is incredibly smart. Because let's face it, Season 1 of The Mandalorian was basically a global sensation. Season 2 brought tears to the eyes of people. My dad literally was choked up at that emotional goodbye between Grogu and Din Djarin, and it was beautiful. And then Season 3, how can I put this delicately? It pretty much took a giant steaming dump all over the good sentiment and love that I had and that a lot of other people had for those characters and those stories established in the first 2 seasons. It basically laid waste to that emotional ending. Much like Disney's sequel trilogy, the 3rd season of The Mandalorian had no character, no redeeming qualities, and was made to get money and not made to actually have any heart. But like I said, this is going to make money. Grogu was a huge marketing draw. I don't think he still is anymore. I see a lot of Grogu ending up at the Dollar Tree and Five Below, which is basically where merchandise goes to die. But at the end of the day, kids love that little green thing. Kids love weird aliens and little characters like Babu Frick from the sequel trilogy, whose name I only remember because I had a friend that was way too into Babu Frick. I don't care about that character. I don't care about the porgs. Roast them for all I care about. BB-8, a beach ball, rolling around talking shit. I much prefer my little trash can R2-D2, who despite what Leslie Headland claims is most definitely not a lesbian.
I think it's canon that R2-D2 is a lesbian.
Sure, Jan.
But The Mandalorian was huge for a really long time, maybe 2 or 3 years, right? Because men wanted to be the cool guy in the helmet, which is the only reason anybody remembers who Boba Fett is. Women wanted to be with the guy in the cool helmet. Maybe not all women, but I did. I'm not right. So I liked the helmet, I liked the raspy voice, and I loved Pedro. If you've seen this channel at all, you know that in this house, we loved and worshipped Pedrito Pascal. I loved Pedro Pascal. Unfortunately, times have changed. Overexposure, I don't know, call it what you want. I don't feel the same way about him. But if they made a kick-ass show or a movie and he just went back to being a bounty hunter, I might get back into it. But if he's chasing around the Muppet babysitting, I'm not interested. And that's exactly what's gonna happen. I watched the trailer, okay? I didn't want to do a reaction to it because I just didn't. I knew that I was already going into it with not great expectations, and I hate doing reactions where I'm already like, you know, like clicking play with that look on my face. I hate doing that. I watched the trailer. I'm not enthused. Again, it looks like just 4 episodes that we could have gotten on Disney Plus that they're now gonna charge me like $22.50 to go see in the movie theater, and I don't wanna pay for it. I think everything that made Boba Fett interesting, they passed on to Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and everything that made the Mandalorian interesting is basically done away with when he's got a Muppet following him around. There is no cool way to animate that thing. I think it works best as a cute little baby that you can cuddle. Oh, you're so precious. I don't want to see that. I want the Mandalorian kicking ass and being weird like he was in the first season. Remember that one random episode of the Book of Boba Fett that he showed up in, and it was abject violence and would look like a meat locker, and he just went absolutely bonkers? That was good. That was good TV. That was sexy. He's not gonna do that in front of a baby. I wouldn't do it in front of my dog, who is currently in this exact position as I record. And so we're not getting the cool bounty hunter thing that I feel like Star Wars has been promising to give us for years. And we're seeing so much more of Grogu, like, doing things, where it's starting to expose the weird CGI, the weird proportions, and the fact that this thing is not interesting to watch. Yeah, it's a draw because you can go and buy your daughter 17 versions of this thing afterwards. But I mean, how long till they all end up in the landfill, which is kind of what happened after season 3. None of this feels like new ground. So to me, this does not feel like it needed to be a movie. None of this interests me. Not even because of, I'm over Star Wars. It's because this is not where I think this character succeeds in. This is not where it would have been coolest in. And I think they're just trying to sell more and more of this green thing. But like they should have learned immediately after season 3, people move on. Grogu is going the way of the Furby. People stopped buying Furbies. Remember the Labubu? I ranted about that like a month ago in a video. I don't see anybody carrying Labubus anymore, and now there's not even the bootlegged ones because nobody gives a I did mention that I was going to talk about why I think this is being released in theaters. Star Wars has been having a tough time over the past few years, and at the end of the day, probably the most successful thing with brand staying power that they've put out in recent years, at least under the Disney banner, was The Mandalorian. Like I said, it got adults involved, it got kids involved, and it was something that people enjoyed watching together without admittedly much need for any context beyond, as in like the original trilogy. So I think on the one hand, Disney knows that the Mandalorian and Grogu are probably their safest bet right now, as opposed to, you know, the Rey, no-name Palpatine Skywalker movie that we're never gonna see. And on top of that, I think strategically this makes perfect sense. If Disney is actively losing Disney Plus subscribers and people are choosing to pirate Disney Plus content, then if you can actively kind of do a cross-platform thing, where something that started on Disney Plus eventually makes it to theaters, then you can basically build hype both theatrically and for Disney Plus and kind of make a pipeline that works really well financially. At the end of the day, though, I think this one is still sort of risky in a few ways. For one, even though I think it's gonna do really well at the box office, that's my assumption, it's either gonna do really well or it's gonna be crushed. And Disney is not really in a good place to have another movie absolutely flop, especially with how much money they are no doubt putting behind this. And I think that might be another risk because, again, from what I'm getting from this trailer, it honestly feels like just an extension of the series. It looks like this could have been 3 or 4 episodes that would have been, you know, stitched together week by week on Disney Plus, and instead they just decided to make it into a movie. Normal audiences might not want to have to watch 3 seasons of this show to have the context, and people might be turned off by the format because, again, it does feel like more of a series type thing as opposed to something theatrical, so that might kind of bother the average viewer. Admittedly, I don't think there's much risk of overexposure because Disney doesn't really put out as much Star Wars as they do with like Marvel, for instance. This is the first time there's a Star Wars project in theaters in 6 years, and I think people might be really jonesing to see that opening crawl appear on the big screen again. But all in all, despite my lack of faith for this movie, there's just a lot of questions about what this means for Star Wars moving forward. This could, in a way, be a total reset to try and reestablish Star Wars as a premium. I think IPs and actors always look worse when they move from the big screen to TV, and that's kind of what Disney did. From 2019 to 2025, Star Wars has basically existed exclusively on the small screen at home on Disney Plus. And so Star Wars doesn't feel like the big grandiose brand it used to be. By sending it back to theaters, they could be re-establishing it as such. This could be the shift away from Disney Plus exclusivity to more and more projects in theaters. I mean, we're hearing word of the project with Ryan Gosling starring in it. We're still hearing rumors every once in a while about the Rey No Name Palpatine Skywalker movie directed by the activist. God, I hope we never have to see this see the light of day. There's also a new trilogy being teased. I mean, we're hearing a lot of chatter. And I think basically things are gonna end up in theaters like this.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
All in all, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. Honestly, I would like to get another trailer for this, because this was kind of like a teaser. There wasn't much going on. Maybe there's more. Maybe I'm writing it off too soon. Either way, I'm open to seeing it be better than I think it's gonna be, even though last season of this show gave me Lizzo and Jack Black. I am so hoping they don't disappoint me, but I think that's exactly where we're headed. And that's all from me. I've been SnarkyJay. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. For more SnarkyJay, be sure to check me out on Instagram, and if you'd like to support me, this channel, and my content creation, do check out and consider subscribing to my Patreon for exclusive photo shoot sets and cosplay content. I'll add links to all of those in the description below. And let me know if you think the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is set to make history at the box office or flop hard in the comments below.